Board games. Games. Board games. Board games. It's what I'm talking about. Board games. Board games. I'm not gonna shout it. I am starting off this streaming with a little bit of singing. And today I'm talking about motivation, and I'm not gonna shout. Though in simply saying that, I'm more motivated to give a little shout, but maybe that would be hated because if I shout, it might hurt your ears, and also it might annoy everybody around here. Board games and motivation, it's what I'm talking about. Board games and motivation, I'm not gonna shout. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. I am Bez, and this is my Bezzy Beats and briefer blether. Today is a quick stream about how we can find motivation. So, yes, what motivates you? Why do you do the things that you do? What makes you get up in the morning and then think, yeah, I'm getting out of bed? What makes you actually do the things that you wanted to do? What helps you get started? These are like some of the things that we'll talk about, and I've been inspired by this topic partially because I'm moving and I just keep putting off packing, putting it off, putting it off, putting it off. It's not good times. And yeah, Sunday I was just exhausted. Monday I didn't do much. But I have to just get my arse in gear and yeah, get stuff together. But on the other hand, yoga. I started doing it just about 1.5 weeks ago, and I've managed to get myself up in the morning. And I'll talk about why I'm motivated to do that. Why am I motivated to make games? And how can I maybe get myself a wee bit more motivated to do some of my packing? Let's move on to talk about recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights. Recent highlights, playing games and other delights. Recent highlights. Yesterday I did not play any games. Um, I guess I played a kind of mobile phone game for a bit of time, but yeah, nothing worth talking about. It was a good day. I sadly had to say goodbye to my good friend Layla, who's gone off back home, hundreds of miles away, but maybe we will see each other again in the not too distant future. That was definitely a major thing that happened. What else? We did a bit of yoga this morning, yeah. So got up at 6:30, maybe 6:38, 6:40, whatever time the alarm was set for. And I actually had a dream where I woke up and then I set the alarm for an hour later. But no, I guess getting up at that time is a big enough deal for me that it is infiltrating my subconscious. So I am, yeah, proud of myself for getting up. And I think that part of the reason why I got up is because there's a class, right? You need to be there at a very specific time. Once there's a specific moment, once it's like, okay, you need to be at the class at 7:30. I know, well, I need to leave the house around 7 o'clock. Sure, maybe even if I left at 7:10, that might be okay, but yeah, basically I need to be there by 7:30, ready to workouts and have my shoes off, have, some clothes on, have yoga mat packed, and the yoga mat's not that big an issue. It's in my bag, I take it, but getting out of bed, making sure that I've gone to the loo, these are tiny things. But at that time of morning, it's like, okay, what do I do? And it's so tempting to just take a little more time, right? It's so tempting to say, oh, I'm just going to stay in bed for a while longer. It's so tempting to say, oh, I don't need to get up right now. And that's part of the reason why I originally started this show. Because back in the day when I couldn't go outside and see other people, back in around March 20 or April or May, whenever it was, 2020, was like, I need one time when I've made that commitment, and that exact time I need to be ready for. Now, of course, you might be like 1 minute late, or in the case of a class, even like it might arrive 5 minutes late and then feel a little bit bad, and it still works. But you don't want to repeat that. You make sure that you're up in time, you get there, and you start in time. Conversely, think about, and that's why having actual start times, I think, is a really good thing for motivation. I think that having a clear, this is what time I'm going to start, and having made that, the second thing that motivates me for going to yoga is the public nature of it. So I have to book the class. It's a very generous cancellation policy. I can cancel as long as it's 3 hours ahead of time. So if I woke up at 4 o'clock in the middle of the night and I wanted to cancel, I theoretically could. And but making that commitment. And then they say, hey, if you don't come at this particular time, you're going to have to pay us an extra tenner as a late cancellation fee. Now, not only is it about the tenor, not only is it about the penalty, the very direct and very real penalty that goes into my mind, but also it's about the public nature of it, having made that commitment. I mean, with this show, it's not as if anyone's going to tell me off, frankly, if I didn't do it one morning. It's not as if anyone's going to, you know, it's not as if there's going to be some massive effect on my ability to sell games to a publisher. I mean, I guess it might have a small effect on their opinion of my reliability as a human, but just the fact that I've made this public commitment and people can see whether I've done it or not. I mean, sometimes I get a bunch of people watching, sometimes I don't. But there's always the option for people to just jump in and say, oh, is Bez streaming today? So yeah, we've got to pick a specific time, make a specific declaration by writing it down or saying it out loud or filling in a form. It does make it more likely that you do it. And then if there's a penalty, then, that keeps your mind focused. And if there's some sort of, you know, public accountability, then that might also help you be a wee bit more focused. And so, yeah, those are some things that help me with motivation. And hello, Alex. It's lovely to see you. I hope you're well. Just been chatting about yoga and my ability to actually get up at 6:40. And again, I'm really proud. But what are your recent highlights? Have you managed to achieve anything that you felt needed a lot of motivation? Have you done anything where you felt like you had to gather your motivation together? And what helps you with your motivation? Now, of course, it's time for the questionably quick questions. That's the next section. It's not an interrogation, it's just a questionably quick question section. Firstly, I want to say thank you, Alex, who says that getting up for the yoga is a great achievement. I do appreciate that. And talking about motivation, let's talk about brilliant thing. Brilliant thing. What's a little thing which is brilliant? So I think that motivation, it's like a muscle, right? And if I stop myself from eating sugar, eventually it becomes just like a habit. Eventually it does become easier. It's never super easy after a month. For me at least, it's still tricky. But it becomes easier to say, no, 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 I'm not having that. I think that motivation, it's without motivation, if we just let us do the easiest possible things, then are maybe a little bit uncomfortable, but then in the medium term or even the slightly less short term, it's okay to do. Like, again, as an example, I don't enjoy getting up at 6:30, but I know that I'll feel a sense of achievement, I'll feel a sense of connection with the other people in the class. I will actually enjoy the breath of air outside the house. And so, yes, within an hour, and that's very relatively short term, but in that moment, I hate it, but then there's a short term benefit. Let's look at drawing things. I mean, frankly, you might think, oh, Bez clearly enjoys drawing wee whimsical creatures. And the truth is, no, I don't. I don't enjoy drawing wee whimsical creatures. I just enjoy having them drawn. Do you know what I mean? I enjoy this moment. Hey, everyone's enjoying them, and there's a bunch of creatures that I drew. And during the couple of weeks that I drew the bulk of them, it was it took discipline. It took motivation. It meant that for a few hours of the morning, I was stopping myself from doing other stuff. I was actually out with other people, but then I said, okay, I will work until 11 or whatever time I forced myself to get up, and then soon I was I'd done a few drawings, and then I had the satisfaction very quickly of, hey, that drawing that I just drew, that's all right. I'm happy with that. Or okay, now I feel like I've done something. Now I can go and enjoy time with friends with a slightly more clear conscience. Not that I should feel guilty about not drawing, but you know what I mean, hopefully. So that's why motivation is brilliant. Talking about questionably quick questions, Alex says, if you could see the sunrise anywhere in the world, where would you go? Hmm. If I could see the sunrise anywhere in the world. I mean, this seems like one of those questions that I should have a better answer for. Is the sunrise faster on the sunrise is faster on the equator, right? And the closer you go to the north or south, then the slower it is. So, I mean, if I'm teleported to the place and then I get to see the sunrise, then I'm teleported back here, I would say maybe Reykjavik or somewhere in Iceland. That's what I'm thinking, somewhere up north. So, yeah, where would you go to watch the sunrise? Actually, maybe on the very southern pole. That might be quite cool, although, yeah, how long would that sunrise be? Are we talking, like, how many hours would a sunrise take on the actual South Pole? Right. As I always say, feel free to comment, ask questions, thumb like, follow, and let's talk more about the motivation. So, why make games? That's one of the questions that I asked. I think there's a whole bunch of reasons for extrinsic and intrinsic motivation for making games or doing anything else. I think that for me personally, a lot of the reason why I make games is to enjoy the satisfaction that I get when other people are enjoying something that I made. It's a sense of validation. It's a sense of belonging. It's a sense of, I made this thing. Now other people are enjoying it. It has value because other people had fun with it. It's a, I, I guess I like being creative in that manner, whether it's dance or music that I make or a picture or a set of rules that form an experience, possibly a game, possibly not something that you would consider a game. I think that I gain a lot of satisfaction from the extrinsic motivation. I know, and yeah, there are arguments that that might not be the most healthy thing, but that's the truth for me. That I am largely motivated by other people being like, hey, I enjoyed this. Thanks, Bez. I mean, like just now in Big Cock, the Facebook group, and also on Twitter, there's so many messages, people saying, oh, I enjoyed getting this envelope because it's got all these doodles on it, or people saying, oh, I played this with my 4-year-old, or oh, I started colouring these in. And seeing that people are engaging with something I made, seeing that people are enjoying something that I made, for me, I want to facilitate fun and I want that validation. I want that sense of purpose. That is what gives me a sense of purpose, and that is what makes me make games fundamentally. Um, Going back to the sunrise question, Alex says, I'd like to see the sunrise over the canopy of the Amazon rainforest, especially if I could teleport. Oh, yeah, the canopy of the Amazon, that would be quite cool. At the end of the day, what better thing is there than a little human connection? Yes, absolutely. And the human connection, I might be fostering a human connection around the table when people play the games together. And again, that gives them a sense of validation, a sense of purpose, going somewhere and seeing that people are playing something and I didn't have to cajole them into playing it, or potentially even someone that I don't even know is playing a thing. That's like one of the most amazing things ever. Um, but also, it's the human connection between the person who's making the thing and the person who experiences the thing. I mean, yeah, we can get into the arguments. Are games art, blah blah, but let's assume, let's take it as written that they are. And if you want to have that discussion, we can have that another time. But I believe that games are art, and arguably, any form of art is kind of a form of communication between the artist and the person who's experiencing it, the person who watches the film, the person who um, looks at a painting, the person who listens to the music. Sure, those things don't change. Those things don't have as much interactivity as, a game, obviously, but they do force you to listen. They do force your interpretation, and I think that that's a really interesting thing. I can read Calvin and Hobbes, and I can think about the nature of humanity, the nature of adulthood, and some of that might be something that Bill Watterson puts in there, or I might come up with my own interpretations. But that communication, that planting seeds in someone else's mind. And as time has gone on, at the start, for sure, it was just about facilitating fun. It was about having a sense of purpose, a form of good attention. But then as time has gone on, my motivations have shifted slightly. For sure, nowadays, when I make a game, sometimes my motivation is money. And when I think about pitching a game to someone who's got the IP for an up-and-coming TV show for tiny toddlers. And I'm like, yeah, I would like to make a game work around this IP. Frankly, my motivation there isn't because I think I really want to connect with these toddlers who are watching this particular show. Yeah, sure, I do want to connect with people, I do want to facilitate fun, but there's also an aspect of I want to make something that's going to sell like 20,000 minimum, and something where it's going to actually be worth me spending weeks or months or whatever and pondering these things and trying to make this super simple game mass market. And so that is part of the reason why I put a little bit more energy into the an unnamed game compared to the game also known as Hunter's Pie, because whilst I'm very excited about Surprise Terror Games publishing that, I, I do have to think about what's going to be the return. And if there's a game where it's likely to sell maybe 1,000, 2,000 copies, whilst that's great, it's any change I make on Yogi, anything that I do on a similar game, that would be replicated so many more times. Not only would that affect so many more people, not only would that affect so many games, but yeah, I have to say, I am motivated by money because I need money to survive, to carry on doing what I'm doing. And if I want to be able to make games full time, then I need to make more than just one game that's earning me a continual profit. The third motivation, which I sometimes have, is because I want to send a message. That gets back to communication. Like Seize the Power, that was very much about I want to make this statement. Sometimes it's expression, sometimes it's just I want to have this game with the longest title ever. And the title itself is a form of expression, getting that out there. Sometimes it's a bit of curiosity. It's like, how would people respond to this? How will people respond to a game about drawing creatures, complimenting the creatures, and then, complimenting the drawings, and then complimenting the compliments? How will people respond to that? Sometimes it's about how would things work if these two mechanisms were put together? How would that work? So there is a final sense, which is yes, I do enjoy actually. Probably, I enjoy improvising, whether it's music or theatre. But when it comes to something that's rehearsed and something that you have to iterate on, I think that games are my favorite thing to iterate on. Whilst I love making things in the moment and not worrying too much, improvising on the keyboard, improvising a bit of comedy, whatever, having jokes, having conversation, I enjoy that. But when it comes to iterating, playtesting is unique because you get that connection again with the other people. Sure, you can playtest yourself over and over, and if it's a one-player game, then that's something that you absolutely should do. But in the process of making it, I think that games are unique in that you need. Actually, I'm going to rephrase that. Multiplayer games are unique in that there is no way to test them without involving more and more other people. And so it brings about a human connection. It means that other people are going to be part of the process. I have made digital games that were very successful and did reasonably well. I made a digital game where yeah, it's kind of, yeah, one of my digital games, Exorbis 2. It was two of us working on it, and no one else ever played it, but we were able to play these puzzles and think about them and think about, okay, what's the difficulty like? And sure, at one point I had one of my parents play it for a bit. But once you've got a game that needs two or three or even more people to function, well, you need at least that many people to just see, does this thing function? Alex has a question. Have you ever thought about designing a Kickstarter game where the focus is drawing in a lot of people on Kickstarter? For a moment, I thought you were saying, okay, I should do a Kickstarter and then draw everyone who backs. Yeah, I feel like I'd need to charge enough to make it worth my while to draw them. Also, unless I wanted to say, okay, I'm going to do a bad drawing of you, like I will spend 2 minutes at most drawing you. That might be fun. But yes, are you talking about a meta game wherein you actually run a Kickstarter? Or do you mean a game that's got the theme and the setting of a Kickstarter? Because if the latter, then yes, I have. And years ago, I think this might have been 2014, something like that, where I was, yeah, where I was trying to make a game about making a Kickstarter. I think I called it Crowdfunder the Game, and then I worked on it for half a year until I realized, hey, wait a minute. Actually, this must have been early 2014 or late 2013, because at the time I realized, oh, wait a minute, I just don't. I don't have enough experience about Kickstarter. I don't know enough about this. I don't know how to make a game themed or based around Kickstarter. Okay. I see what you mean. Okay, so Alex wasn't talking about that at all. Alex was talking about, in terms of sales or whatever, more of an intended market. So, in the same way that I might talk about designing a mass market game or potentially a children's game, have I thought about making a game that would generate a lot of interest on Kickstarter? The truth is that some parts of Kickstarter and what does well on Kickstarter do sadden me and feel kind of disingenuous. I'm not really a big fan of the amount of miniatures, the amount of plastic that goes into a big box game. I understand that for a successful Kickstarter, what you want is something that is easily expandable. Easy to say, oh, here, have these 2 extra cards, have these extra bits. Oh, we've got so much extra money, have an extra miniature. Oh, we've got some extra money. Well, here's an unlock that you need to pay for, but we are going to do this expansion. And so, designing an entire game around what works well on Kickstarter, I would rather design a game. Yeah, I don't know. Those don't tend to be the games that I myself are interested in. Maybe, yes, games do reflect the tastes of the designer. So myself, I like things that are sometimes silly. I like things that are accessible. I like to be able to teach my friends the rules and then have them play and have them join in very quickly. I like to allow some people to play without putting too much brain power into it, so that if someone needs to play in a random or silly way, then that's okay. But at the same time, I like to have games where someone can be super competitive, where I do cover the edge cases, where, for the most part, if someone wants to be like, okay, this is what we're going to do, this is going to be I am going to spend a lot of energy getting really good at this, then you can. When frankly, if you want to get really good at yogi, the best way is to work on your body, become a bit more flexible, maybe do bits of yoga, and but within the game, if you want to, let's say you don't work on it or do any research or anything outside of those times, well, the best way to do it is just really push yourself to the physical limit. If you want to do really well at Wibble, or yeah, with it feels, even with my silliest games, I feel like there is a way to do well, and there's mm, there is a thing of a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises. Like if someone really wanted to cheat, they could make a noise going and that means it's number three, or they could go and that means it's number five. I mean, that isn't actually written in the rules anywhere to say, hey, please don't do this. But for the most part, I guess I am more into those kinds of light, accessible games that people will play and then people will enjoy. And then once someone has played it, they're like, oh, I want to play this myself. I want to buy it myself. And then because pushing people for that fear of missing out, that kind of pushing towards the consumerist market. And so that's not something that I want to push into. And so I guess there has to be a sense of shared values. And I'm not saying that people who, yeah, I like actually what you said. The sound must be representative of the character of the, yeah, character of the creature. Not really the character. I mean, you can make noises or how many mouths it has or how many legs it has, and that's a nice way to do it, and that's totally within the spirits of the game as far as I'm concerned. And then if you play cooperatively, you end up with like 22 creatures, and then I think I got as far as like 15. And then at that point, you've got to not just think about the number of mouths and legs, but also kind of, yeah, is it in anguish or is it. Well, anyway, I would rather make games. What I would ideally like is for my games to be played, and for when I'm making a physical object, for that physical object to really give people a lot of joy. Not just because they got it, not just because it's on a shelf, but ideally because it's being played. And hello, J. Folsgard, it's lovely to see you. Sometimes games rely on people wanting to play them and trust people not breaking them. Yeah, for sure, there's a little bit of trust with the players there. And so, yes, for both of you, if you've got anything that you're trying to motivate yourself to do, or anything that you're struggling with motivation wise, then please bring it to the discussion. Um, yeah, like the nature of why I make games, I think I've fairly explored that. The nature of why I do anything else, it's because at the end of the day, I've got a bit of time while I'm alive. I was born and sometime I'll die. I don't know when it'll be, but it'll be sometime. And before I'm dead, well, what I've said is that maybe I should have some fun while I'm alive. So, yeah, I I want to have a laugh. I mean, that's a reductive way to put it, but I want to have a laugh. I want to, if I do something that's not enjoyable, the only reason I'm doing that is because I think it's going to bring me greater joy down the line. From a very selfish point of view, I am, it could be said, a selfish person. Sure, I do care for those around me. I do try to help them. I do try to, but ultimately, that's kind of because maybe it gives me some transitive joy. Maybe helping a housemate makes me feel good about myself. Maybe helping my housemate makes me more comfortable because my housemate is comfortable. And frankly, the truth is that there's a lot of homeless people that I walk past. And we are all selfish creatures. And it's an uncomfortable thing to say. But yes, I'm walking around, I'm having this conversation, and I'm motivated to do so because it's enjoyable. I am speeding up my walk just now because I know that walking around is good for my body, and even though I might not enjoy walking around in and of itself, although today it is fairly pleasant, I do try to walk and cycle because down the line it's going to make me feel better. It's going to increase my, lifespan and all that. I might avoid things that will give me pleasure because, say, not having sugar gives me more pleasure down to, you know what I mean. And why do I get up in the morning? Why do I even get out of bed? Yeah, that's the thing. That's honestly, some days it's a really difficult question to answer. Some days there is no reason. And you probably see me when I'm talking to you, and when I'm surrounded by people, I'm loving it. I'm full of energy. But when I'm on my own and I don't have, yeah, I put off getting up. I put off getting out of bed because I'm like, what's the point? I could do this thing. And I think that is going back to the whole yoga, um, streaming, doing a thing at a set time. That is a really good thing. Alex says, I've really recently started a big chart that tracks a few things I've been doing. Part of my motivation is not letting things slip for too long because it looks bad on the chart. Yeah, I've heard this from other people saying, yeah, every day you do a thing, draw an X, and then eventually you'll want to keep the streak alive. Uh, I, I I don't feel motivated by filling in graphs. But if it works for you, that's the thing. Like working out what works for you. And yeah, then my final thing that I want to talk about is my moving. So I've got a van booked in just under 5 days on Sunday. It is going to Chris is going to come over, and then we're going to drive to my new place and then put some stuff up and probably drive back and drive to the new place again. And maybe there'll be 3 trips. I don't know how many trips there'll be. But I have to put all my stuff in boxes. I and why haven't I started packing? Part of it, honestly, is because it's a really difficult thing to do right now. I don't have any floor space in my room. I don't even have I've gotten to the point where half of my bed is actually covered in boxes, which is incredibly embarrassing. But I'm letting you know because it's the state of the world. Um, yeah, half of my bed's covered in boxes, and so if I want to put a new empty box down and start putting stuff in there, where do I put this? Okay, I'll pack my keyboard. Where do I put this? There isn't. It's not like I have a corner where I can put stuff. And Alex says the best thing to do is to clear out before you move. Condo on your stuff. I mean, I was planning on that, but no, I don't think that I have the energy to do that. But I mean, the games, there'll be one game that I give to a close neighbour, partially because I've got 2 copies of Lord of the Rings cooperative game, and it's arguable whether I even need one, let alone 2. But yes, I know someone who quite likes Lord of the Rings. I'll give it to them, obviously. Um, I do also have 2 copies of Leaders of Euphoria. Originally, I was going to put them together to house rule some sort of big group game, but then I realised that's actually I don't get really big groups together often enough anymore, and if we ever did, then I would be happy to play something else like One Night Ultimate Werewolf, or if we really wanted to play a social deduction game. And so I was thinking about it. I was thinking, do I need all this packing material? Do I need? Yeah, I need all my own games because like that stuff I sell. Do I need all the papers and the magazines? Do I need all the books? Do I need all the pens? It, I, I don't know if I can summon the level of energy to do that, and there's nothing big enough where it would mean that hey, getting rid of this is going to free me up more space to do packing more efficiently. Although to be fair, getting a lot of packages sent off will be good. So having having moved recently, says J Fool's Guard, decluttering takes a lot of energy. Yeah, exactly. And I think I've got energy for the decluttering or the packing. I don't have energy for both. Now, it's the difficulty of getting started. It's the not knowing where to start for me. It's the knowing that, hey, in theory, this should take like 2, maybe 3 days, so I kind of still have time and I don't get any immediate benefits. Yeah, it's not like I can do things to make the process itself more enjoyable. I can listen to. Oh, I love what I love. I love what you're saying here. Alex says the hardest part is the first 5 seconds. Aim to do 5 seconds of clearing or packing every hour. Ah, but presumably only certain hours of the day. I mean, if you're suggesting that I need to get up and I can only have at most 59 minute, although to be fair, I could have almost 2 hours of sleep and then I do the last 5 seconds of 1 hour and then the first 5 seconds of the next hour. But yeah, in all seriousness, I get what you mean. Like, kind of say, okay, between 11 and 4, I am going to do packing at least between these hours, and even if I do 5 seconds each one of those hours, that I like that. I like that. Um, I think there's also the sense of making it enjoyable, making the process something that you don't hate. Like if you're avoiding sugar, work out things that you really enjoy that don't have sugar. Like there is peanut butter that doesn't have sugar. I've seen it quite a lot now, actually. Cashew butter and almond butter and peanut butter without sugar. And if I'm making a game, then I don't go into a spreadsheet straight away. I tend to start off wandering around, thinking about it in my mind, maybe pushing some pieces around, and starting off with a playtest or pondering. With yoga, like working on my own body, the fact that I'm with other people, that there's a social connection, it makes it enjoyable. With packing, having potentially, a lecture up or some other sort of interview or something playing that I can listen to, that either it's audio only or something that if it is on YouTube, it's basically just talking heads. And so, but again, it has to be focused. It can't be something on Twitch, because if it's on Twitch, then I will feel obligated to kind of type in and be present. But something where I can just stick it on double speed and listen to it while I put something in boxes. Or potentially, yeah, and that's it. I don't really have much more to say. If anyone else has anything else to say about motivation, then please go ahead. And Alex says, I think he got another shout out on Fun Problems. Yes, episode 19. They mentioned that the game would be very different if the card said run a marathon. And in response, I wrote a list of about 7 or 8 cards on Board Game Geek that will never be made into Yogi cards. Yeah, Fun Problems is a good podcast. Um, yeah, I don't have that many podcasts to listen to, so if you have any recommendations that you think I might not be aware of, then please do let me know. Any podcasts about, yeah, I'm interested in board games and design, but also in marketing, and I might just type some random stuff in and see what I get. Anyway, that's basically the end of everything I've had to say. I hope it's been inspiring for you. I hope that maybe having listened, you might think about, okay, what inspires me? What motivates me? How can I make it so that those things that I want to do, I'm more able to do? Maybe you'll start thinking about, maybe I can make those things more enjoyable. Maybe declare what you're going to do and then you'll be more likely to get it done. Give yourself a particular time that you need to get started and then you might be more likely to get it done. What else did we talk about? Yeah, having an idea of how you'll start, because I remember ages ago when I had to send bills to a few different companies who hadn't paid me yet. It's like, oh, how am I even going to start? And then even just having the realization, okay, I'll start with the oldest bill, the one that's been not paid for the longest time, send them the reminder, and then work up to the present. And even having that idea of, this is where I'm going to start, and saying to myself, okay, how am I going to start? Well, I have an empty box that formerly contained 20, almost empty box that contained 24 copies of Yogi. It's a good sturdy box. Those boxes that Shikabik sent me are amongst my favourite boxes, genuinely. They're a good size, they can fit into my rucksack, and oh, I mean, this isn't anything to do with the quality of their games, but I really like those boxes. They're good, solid boxes. Whereas, obviously, the boxes that the envelopes come in, well, they don't have to be as strong because envelopes are pretty light, so those boxes are kind of flimsy. Anyway, I'm going to empty that. I am going to start by taking off all the books on my bookshelf. That's where I'm going to start, and I am going to start at 11 o'clock. Um, and oh, if I like history stuff, check Revolutions. And Alex is motivated to find some motivation. Awesome. And yes, feel free to ask him about it. I mean, tomorrow we've got Matthew Dunstan, and I was hoping there might be a couple of other people, but even if it's just the two of us, I'm sure it'll be a great chat. So let me start wrapping up and saying, over to you. What are you up to? You can share, but only if you want to. So, is there anything that you want to do? Anything that you need to do? Something fun and frivolous? Something super serious? Is there anything that you need the obligation? Is there something that you need the motivation? Maybe by saying it to everybody else, you will be able to do it for yourself. Personally, I am going to do a bit of tidying up. I'm going to start within 11 minutes. That's what I'm aiming to do. And so, yeah, let me know what you're up to. I chatted about quite a few things, but basically all to do with motivation. I talked about the nature of going to yoga, having the people around, having the social responsibility, having the penalty for not going, having the getting into the routine, making it pleasant for yourself. Alex came up with the really good tip of saying you just aim to do the minimum and 5 seconds every hour, like a tiny bit every hour. That's a really interesting idea. Talks about why I make games, because frankly I want to facilitate fun. That's the simplest way to put it. And yeah, if I'm facilitating fun, then I feel validation. I feel like I've got a sense of purpose. But as time has gone on, I have also started thinking about money. What's the return going to be like? I've started thinking about self expression, and I also enjoy the process in making games, and I also have curiosity in how will these things go together? How will people respond to this thing? Um, Talked about podcasts. I might check out Revolutions. I'm not a massive fan of history, but if that's the one that you would recommend to me, then maybe it will lodge in my brain. Um, Alex is playtesting a game that exactly simulates stock and share trading in 18th century Japan. Wow. I have no idea how 18th century Japan's stock trading even works. But yeah, all the best with that. Um, Interesting indeed. J Fool's Guard says, I am testing to see if my fixed laptop can run Tabletop Simulator and or stream. Also some life admin stuff. Well, I hope that your life admin goes well. And at this point, yeah, firstly, if you want to check me out, you know where to check me. I'm Stuff by Bez basically everywhere. If you want to know what I'm streaming tomorrow, I am streaming only for the next couple of weeks at least. I'm only streaming in the morning. I'm not doing any extra streaming in the afternoon or in the evening. I'm not doing that right now. But tomorrow I have a chat with Matthew Dunstan that I'm looking forward to. We're going to be chatting about the nature of pricing in digital games. It's like you could charge a lot and make more money per sale and have people see that the perceived value stay high, or you could charge a tiny amount and have a lot more sales and make it financially accessible. And it's about that balance. And obviously, with a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises, I chose to go for the £1. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. Please share, spread the word. Thank you everyone for being here. It's been lovely, J Fool's Guard and Alex, to have you here. And that is basically it. I am going to do a bit of jiggling and wriggling once I hang up. For now, I don't have anything more to say. And so the only thing for me to say now is bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye bye, everyone. Bye bye.